What is the best country in Southeast Asia for expats? This is the question we're going to answer in today's video, and we're going to take a look at all important countries that expats love to visit. And the information is going to be based on the current situation in each individual country. We're also talking about how things changed since the pandemic. Let's get started talking about Malaysia, a country that underwent drastic changes when it comes to the Malaysia My Second Home program. We have seen quadrupled income requirements that of course upset a lot of the existing pass holders who were initially told that they had to comply with the new requirements. The government then announced that that was not going to be the case and that existing pass holders do not need to comply with the new requirements. Of course, people were happy about that after the government made that change. And the Malaysia My Second Home program is a retirement program for foreigners wanting to live in Malaysia for the long term. As of today, if you apply for the Peninsular Malaysia My Second Home program, you do need an income of at least 40,000 ringgit per month. And it used to be only 10,000, so it has quadrupled. Same goes with net worth requirements and also the deposit requirement, because now you have to deposit a lot more than you had back then. Now people are actually moving more towards the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program, which has much smaller income requirements. And by obtaining the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program, you can not only live in the state of Sarawak, which is in East Malaysia, but also in Sabah. You can live in West Malaysia. You can live anywhere you want with the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program. For Malaysia tech entrepreneurs, there is of course the METP program, which is ideal for innovative tech entrepreneurs who want to found a company in Malaysia, and the business categories are blockchain technology, green energy, and artificial intelligence. The problem is if you have a conventional internet company, let's say we're talking about an internet marketing agency or potentially an outsourcing firm, maybe you're a freelancer, if you're anything traditional, conventional, it will not work for you, and you will need to either change the direction that you're heading in your business or just look for a different program in a different country. Of course, Malaysia is a great country because the cost of living is relatively low. The Malaysian ringgit is pretty weak, so if you earn money, in dollars, in euros, and pounds, your money will go a long way in Malaysia. I know inflation is pretty high in Malaysia, but still with a foreign income, you have great purchasing power in Malaysia. Some of the more popular destinations expats choose to live in include Kuching, Sarawak, Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Kuala Lumpur, and of course the island of Penang. When it comes to the visa situation, a country that witnessed way fewer changes than Malaysia is Thailand. Nothing really has changed in Thailand. If we take a look at the tourist visa situation, you fly in as a tourist to get a 30-day visa, you can extend it for another 30 days. And if you have put in the work prior to coming to the country and you were lucky enough to secure a 6-month tourist visa, then of course that would be ideal to spend more time in the tropics. In case you want to live in Thailand for the mid to long term and don't meet the minimum age requirements for the retirement visa that Thailand has to offer, you can apply for the Thai Elite Visa, which costs you roughly $17,000 to $18,000 for 5 years. So that's the easy access pass. If you want to get that for 20 years, it would be roughly $32,000. Again, that depends on the current exchange rate, but that is really only a social visit pass. It's a long-term tourist visa. So if you purchase the Thai Elite Visa, you don't get a work permit. You just need to accept that, but it's a great visa for a digital nomad that has some money to spend, some money left over. If you don't mind spending $18,000 or $32,000 on the tourist visa, then the Thai Elite Visa is great because there's really no other visa in place that would allow a digital nomad to be in Thailand for the mid to long term. And I think that's a great option. There's also the Thai Smart Visas. There's more available now, of course, and the Startup Entrepreneur Visa for Thailand is definitely a little bit tricky because you do need a Thai partner. For most businesses, you can only own 49% of the company, meaning the Thai partner owns 51% of the company if you can find one. And you also need to attend an incubation or accelerator program to actually get this visa for yourself. That's just one option, right? There's also the Thai investor visa, the smart investor visa, the smart executive visa, and the smart special talent visa. The problem with these visas is that you do need special requirements. You know, you need to have, for instance, special skills. You need to work in a special sector to get an executive or special talent visa. And if you want to, you know, come to Thailand and live in Thailand as an investor, then the problem is, of course, the amount of money that it takes to invest into a business in order for you to obtain a long-term visa. But these visas may be very suitable for a person that does not mind, you know, putting up the money and, you know, that wants to invest in Thailand, because again, Thailand is a great country. It's the better countries in Southeast Asia in terms of cost of living, in terms of standard of living. Thailand is a great option. The Philippines is one of the most attractive retirement locations for North Americans, pretty much, also Europeans, right? A lot of people move to the Philippines, especially men that are above the age of 50, men who are retired. They want to live in the tropics because the cost of living is cheap. And the Philippines has great retirement programs available. If you're 50 plus and you have an income of $800 and are willing to deposit $10,000 into a local bank account in the Philippines, then you can get a residence permit. In case you don't have any income but are willing to deposit $20,000 into a Filipino bank account, you may also secure a retirement visa in the Philippines. And for retired veterans, there is an option also to qualify just with a lot less money deposited into a Filipino bank account. And if you are a retired veteran, there's also an option to qualify for the retirement program by depositing a lot less money into a local bank account. So the Philippines has a very liberal retirement program in place. Where do people settle down in the Philippines? Cebu is one of the more popular islands. Bohol, same thing. It's also very popular. And a lot of the younger generation obviously settles down in Metro Manila because they have networking opportunities there. It's great for business because a lot of people fly into Manila for conferences. There's a lot going on in terms of, you know, outsourcing firms. So a lot of corporations are set up in Manila. They have, you know, call centers there, also in Cebu, by the way. And it's a great place for somebody who wants to run an online business that doesn't mind living in Manila, because the internet in Manila is definitely better than it is in other parts of the Philippines. A lot of things changed in Vietnam. If you know the previous Vietnam, the old Vietnam, you know, where you were allowed to renew your tourist visa pretty much endlessly, or leave and come back and still get a 3-month multi-entry visa. And it was just a very different time than it is today. So right now, if you're flying into Vietnam, you only get a 30-day tourist visa, which cannot be extended. So if you want to, you know, be there for a couple of months, you have couple of options. Either A, you apply for a renewable visa at the consulate or embassy in your home country. Again, it's only a 30-day visa, but you can extend it for an additional 60 days once you're in Vietnam. That would be an option. The 1-year business visa for Americans is no longer in place, and the 30-day tourist visa is really the only option that you have if you visit as a tourist. But there is an option to open up a company and get a 2-year renewable work permit for Vietnam. In order for you to get that 2-year renewable work permit, you do need to open up a local company. That is a process that's going to take you anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on the business category, depending on whether you're located overseas or in Vietnam. There's obviously a lot of things that you need to get done, but it would be a proven long-term way to stay in the country, start a legitimate business, potentially hire local employees, you know, pay taxes in Vietnam, and just have a long-term visa that you can use to live in the country. Of course, you can also get a work permit by working for a company, but this is usually trickier because, you know, you need to find a company that's willing to sponsor you and go through the whole process. But there are companies willing to do that. And of course, you can marry a local person. That would be one of the easiest way to obtain a long-term visa. Expats who have never visited Vietnam wonder what are the best locations in the country for me personally. And that's a great question, which has a lot of answers to it, right? It really depends on what you're after, because Vietnam is actually a very diverse country in terms of sceneries, in terms of climates. I mean, the climate that you can experience in northern Vietnam is very different than the climate you experience in Saigon. You know, the same holds true for a place like Dalat or even Da Nang, you know, which is slightly cooler during winter. But most people choose Ho Chi Minh City, so that's the new version, that's the new name for Saigon. Then obviously a lot of people also choose Da Nang because Da Nang offers a great quality of life. It's a city by the ocean. You know, you have Hoi An, you have, you know, a lot going on around Da Nang that makes it, I think, great for families looking to settle down in the city. And like I said, the weather throughout winter, and you know, we're talking about from November through like February, is definitely cooler than it is in southern Vietnam. And Hanoi is of course a place that is very different from the rest of the country. People there are very different. The weather is very different. Food is also different. Cambodia's visa system has changed very slightly. Now, if you fly into the country, you know, without applying for a visa in advance, it's only going to be a 30-day tourist visa, and it's not extendable, meaning, you know, would have to leave and come back into the country. So the best option that you really have is to apply for a visa in advance, because then you can extend it for an additional 12 months. There is a process involved here, but again, Cambodia offers a 1-year visa. Most people who live in Cambodia, they settle down in either Phnom Penh, Siem Reap, or Sihanoukville. So those are the more popular tourist destinations, expat destinations in the country. Now, of course, the question is, what is the best country in Southeast Asia for you? And the answer to that question is, it all depends. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on what you're trying to get out of each country. Generally speaking, the cost of living in all the countries we discussed is relatively low. You know, there is not a huge difference in terms of like rental prices, in terms of food prices, dining out, groceries. The only place that is slightly more expensive out of all of the places we mentioned is definitely Manila, Philippines. You know, it's one of the more expensive cities in Asia when it comes to just standard of living. If you want to have a higher standard of living, if you want to have a decent apartment, a modern style apartment, it's going to be more expensive in Manila than it's going to be in any of the other major cities in Southeast Asia. Of course, with the exception of Singapore and Brunei. But yeah, before you consider getting a long-term visa in any of the countries we discussed, I highly recommend that you go there and try it out for yourself. Even if you just spend 30 or 60 days in the country, you will get a good idea of what living in the country is like. You will get to experience the culture, you know, dining out. You will get to experience the dating scene. You will get to experience just the language and how you feel about the city, town, or area where you decide to live in. And I think that's important because YouTube can only teach you so much. My experience is only worth so much in your eyes, because maybe what you want is something entirely different, and you can only really know if you like something by tasting. Which of the discussed countries is your favorite and why? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and investment advice several times a week right now. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos.